Welcome. We're going to talk about 2.4 more on slope. All right, some definitions. Average rate of change. Average rate of change is a fancy way of saying slope. You're actually finding the slope of a secant line because when you're talking about average rate of change, you're talking about a nonlinear function. So say I have some parabola and I want to know the average rate of change between these 2 points here. Well, I'm finding the slope of the secant line. Parallel and perpendicular slopes. Parallel lines do not touch, therefore their slopes are equal. They are exactly the same. Perpendicular slopes meet at a 90-degree angle. You don't have to get out your protractors or anything like that. We just look for two things. They have to be opposite and is a must, reciprocal. Opposite and reciprocal. They have to be both of those things. So let's kind of think about some slopes here. So as an example, let's say I have my given slope, my parallel slope, and my perpendicular slope. So let's say that my given slope is -2. Then my parallel slope is exactly the same, -2. My perpendicular slope is +1/2. So now let's say that my given slope is 2/3. Then my parallel slope, once again, is also 2/3. My perpendicular slope is going to be -3/2. All right, now let's look at what happens if my slope is 0. My parallel slope is 0. My perpendicular slope, opposite, there's no opposite of 0, but reciprocal. That means 0 goes under, so therefore it is undefined. There's also one more that I just kind of want you to think about. And that's if, let's say my given slope is 1, my parallel slope is 1, my perpendicular slope is -1. That's the only one that just changes the sign, but that's because there's no reciprocal of 1. All right, let's look at an example here. Use the given equations to write an equation for the line. All right, number 1 says passing through this given point here, so we have this given point, and then parallel to the line whose equation is, so then it says something about parallel. So we know to find or to write an equation of a line, we need the slope and a point. So what I need from then this equation here is just the slope. So I can put it in slope-intercept form, subtract my 2x from both sides. So I have -3y equals -2x plus 5. Divide everything by -3. But really the only thing that I want here is my slope. So I have my slope here is 2/3. Now, it does say that it's parallel. So since it says that it's parallel, then I know I'm going to use the same exact slope. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my point slope form. So I have y minus, my y value is 6, equals my slope, 2/3, open my parentheses, x minus, my x is a -3, so I'm going to write +3. Start to simplify. I have y minus 6 equals 2/3 x, and then I have 2/3 times 3/1, right? So I have positive, my 3's divide out, and I get 2. Add 6 to both sides. So my equation of my line in slope-intercept form is y equals 2/3 x plus 8. It didn't tell me which form to put it in. It will on the test. But if it just asked me for point slope form, that's my point slope form right there. This is my slope intercept form. So this is point slope form, and this is my slope intercept form. So I'm going to do that for both of these examples right here. All right, so now let's look at the next one. All right, so now it says passing through to -3 and perpendicular to the line whose equation is 3x plus 4y equals 6. All right, so once again, I have a point. This time it says it's perpendicular, so I know I need two things, opposite and reciprocal. So therefore, first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3x from both sides. I have 4y equals -3x plus 6. Divide everything by 4. All I want here is my slope. My slope is -3/4. All right, I have this point. Now I have the slope, but now I want the perpendicular slope. My perpendicular slope, remember, my perpendicular slope is opposite and reciprocal. So my perpendicular slope is going to equal positive 4/3. Opposite sign, reciprocal fraction. All right, so now I'm going to plug it into point slope form. So I have y minus, my y value is -3, so +3 equals 4/3, open my parentheses, x minus, my x value is 2. Y plus 3 equals 4/3 x, put a 1 underneath it, minus 8/3. Subtract 3 from both sides. I have y equals 4/3 x. In order to add these together, in order to combine these have to have the same denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 underneath this. So I'm going to kind of do my work over here. So I have -8/3 and then minus, I need my denominator to be 3. 1, what do I have to multiply 1 by to get 3? 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. Therefore, then I have minus 17/3. So again, this is the equation in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. If it were to just ask me to write it in point slope form, this right here is my point slope form. Average rate of change. When you're asked to find the average rate of change, you're given a function. So you're given the function and two x values. So I'm going to plug in one of my x values, get my y, plug in my other x value, get my y, plug it into the fraction, and you simplify the fraction. All right, let's look at this example of find the average rate of change of the function from x sub 1 to x sub 2. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the formula. So I'm going to go ahead and find f of 4 is equal to 3 times 4 squared minus 5 times 4. So I have f of 4 is then equal to 3 times 16 minus 20. So then f of 4 is equal to 48 minus 20. So then f of 4 is equal to 28. Now I'm going to go ahead and find f of x sub 1. So I have f of negative 2 is equal to 3 times negative 2 squared minus 5 times negative 2. So I have f of negative 2 is equal to 3 times 4 plus 10. So f of negative 2 is then equal to 12 plus 10. So f of negative 2 is equal to 22. Alright, so now I'm going to find my average rate of change. I'm going to put it into the formula. So I have 28 minus 22 divided by 4 minus, it's negative 2, so I'm going to go ahead and write plus 2. So therefore I have 6 divided by 6, so my answer here is 1. What slope means? The unit to describe y per the unit used to describe x. So for every one x value, whatever your 1x value, y is changing whatever your slope is changing. If it's a positive slope, it's going to go up. If it's a negative slope, it's going to go down. You could also say if it's a positive slope, it's going to increase. If it's a negative slope, it's going to decrease.